The MLB playoffs feature two ALDS games today. First, the Twins will welcome in the Houston Astros to Minnesota for Game 3 of their series. The Twins and Astros are currently tied at 1 game apiece. Next, the Texas Rangers will look to sweep the Baltimore Orioles in the third game of their series. The next Powerball drawing will offer the second largest lottery jackpot in U.S. history. With no big winner last night, Wednesday's jackpot rolls up to just over $1.7 billion. The lump sum cash payment would be worth an estimated $756 million. There hasn't been a Powerball jackpot winner since July. You're listening to the latest on NBC News Radio.
Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC's KCAA Radio. If you're ready to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and bra straps, enjoy a listen. Here's Sheila.
If you're just tuning in, this is NBC Sheila Mac Show here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. I'm your host, Sheila Mac, and welcome again to the show. If you are listening in, you might be a first-time home buyer eager to leave the rental cycle, an empty nester ready to downsize for a simpler life, a busy mom who wants more family time, or an entrepreneur seeking to generate passive income as you build or rebuild your financial house. Are you ready to reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your lifestyle? So discover an array of valuable free resources, comprehensive trainings, engaging videos, exclusive bonuses, and practical steps to kickstart your journey towards crafting a life of abundance and securing lasting generational wealth through strategic property investments and individualized lifestyle design. Again, welcome to the show, and we have a very special and important episode today. Welcome to Sheila Mac Show on NBC's KCAA Radio, and you may be also tuning in on LinkedIn Live. This is Sheila Mac, your host, and today I have a very special couple of guests. I have Kurt Jensen and Marshall Morris of Dying Defiantly. So let me just share a little bit about Marshall before we get started. Marshall Morris is the founder and CEO of Dying Defiantly, a nonprofit charity dedicated to providing counseling and support to terminally ill veterans, military personnel, first responders, civilians, and their families. With a background as an Eagle Scout, Order of Arrow member, and airborne and air assault veteran, Marshall brings integrity, leadership, and a passion for service to his role. Now, facing a terminal bile duct cancer diagnosis in July 2021, Marshall's personal journey led him to create Dying Defiantly as a means of helping others facing similar challenges. Inspired by figures like Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Les Brown, and Jim Rohn, Marshall strives to be the best version of himself daily and positively impact every person he encounters. Marshall's dedication to self-improvement extends beyond his work as he finds solace in reading books on personal development and enjoying music by artists such as Elvis and Mercy Me. Movies like Tombstone and It's a Wonderful Life resonate with him, emphasizing the importance of resilience and hope. In his role at Dying Defiantly, Marshall aims to be a guiding light for individuals navigating the darkness of a terminal illness. With compassion and empathy, he offers understanding, support, and a voice of reason to those in need. His ultimate goal is to defy the odds and inspire others with purpose, helping them find strength and meaning even in these most difficult moments. So whether you're seeking counseling, support, or simply a listening ear, Marshall is there to extend his hand and walk alongside you on your journey of self-discovery and healing. Together, he believes that you can overcome challenges, embrace resilience, and discover the light that will guide your path forward. All right, welcome to the show, Marshall and Kurt.
How you doing?
All right.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Okay, and I like to start each show by asking the question, could you share for the listeners about a time in your business or personal life where you experienced a tough situation and how you got back on track?
Wow. Well, I guess I'll go with that one first. So probably the toughest situation ever to deal with, and I've had a couple. Um, but let's go with this one. In July of 2021, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cholangiocarcinoma, which is bile duct cancer. Uh, it was a terminal diagnosis. They gave me 9 to 12 months at max. Uh, because of some what they call vascular interference, it was unable to be resected, which means they had surgery put on it, or uh, and because of the size of the tumor, we were not a candidate for any kind of liver transplant. So, if anybody doesn't know what bile ducts are, uh, it's the plumbing inside your liver. So, and without bile flowing, your liver would shut down and you would cease to function. So, um, I was told that in an instant that hey, stage 4, and at that exact moment, the first thought in my mind was, okay, well, it is what it is. And I was like, okay, it is what it is. At least we know what the enemy is, right? We know who our enemy is at this point now. We know it's this cancer. And I could have gone down a dark road, and for whatever reason I didn't. Okay. And I think that there's some deep intervention, maybe spiritually. Uh, at that moment they said, guess what? We're not letting you have a single sad day in this whole thing. You're not going to have one sad moment. Matter of fact, we're going to use you to get the message out that you don't have to face adversity. You don't have to face whatever challenge it is with, disappointment, that you can face it as this is an opportunity, right? Cancer has been a blessing for me because what it did is it wiped away a lot of those negatives that society puts on us. And it allowed me to go ahead and get rid of a little bit of the ego, a little bit of the materialism, and all that stuff that had been put on me because of society's successes, right? My successes within society, and left behind this heap of clay that I could remold in an image that was, you know, that I could make something special that my family, friends, and God could be actually proud of. And so that's what I've done every day. And it's been so easy to do that, to just realize that when you don't focus on the negative,
Right.
right? When you focus on a positive, that you look at the silver lining in every situation, I guess it's making me a better person.
Mm.
Cancer is making me a better person. Maybe not in health wise, right? But in a manner of I'm a better father, I'm a better brother, I'm a better, grandfather, I'm a better lover to my mate, I'm a better friend to everybody. And it's because of who I've become because of this cancer. So we can look at things negatively or positively. That's our choice, right? It's we decide. No one else makes that choice for us. We personally decide whether it's a positive or negative. Nobody else does that. That's just us.
Mm. Yes. Wow, that's an incredible story. Thank you for sharing that, Marshall. And, there is something about giving the power, becoming a victim to whatever it is, a person, place, thing, in your case, an illness, giving that power away or choosing to be the one in charge of what you can control that makes all the difference. And that's probably why I'm talking to you today, right now, after that diagnosis in 2021. So that is a mindset thing, and it's kind of magical. I'm sure there's definitely a lot to say about the power of prayer and that positive mindset. So I'd like to also ask Kurt if he had anything to add or share.
Well, yeah, this has just been a blessing for the last 3 months to work with Marshall. I mean, I've lost 14 family members and close friends over the last 5 years, and God put me in a place where my next challenge was to work with a really good friend of mine that is going down the same path. And I thought, no way am I going to be able to handle that. But with God's grace and persistence, man, I'm blessed, to be a part of his journey because it's nothing short of amazing.
Yes. And that's something I think a lot of people don't want to talk about the reality that all of us exit our physical bodies and go back to the to the spiritual realm, God, to source. And so, or however you believe. So with that, what is your experience with sharing about this with other people?
Well, as you know, I mean, everybody has their own belief systems, right? And so I don't try to push anything on anybody, right?
Mhm.
I'm a big believer that, look, you get a terminal diagnosis, at some point you're probably going to go to God and ask him to save you. It's just going to happen, because you don't know where else to turn.
Mhm.
Um, you know, it's a scary moment for most people. But when you know where you're going,
Yeah.
truly, when you know where you're going, dying is actually pretty easy, right? And so it's just a matter of acceptance, right? You have to accept that, look, I was 270 and a beast of a guy. I'm 211 now. It's a new normal, right?
Mhm.
That life's going to change, right? It's going to change everybody it touches, your family, your friends, you. It changes everything. So whatever that illness is, whatever that situation, it changes the people that it comes in contact to. So
Mhm.
you're right. You were just talking about mental space, right? I call it mental, real estate, right?
Mhm.
You only have so much of it. And if you allow people to stay there, be it an old relationship that still has a hold on you mentally, be
Mhm.
it whatever that situation is, that is, it's taking up mental real estate that you can't do. So you have to evict whatever those bad people were, evict them from your life, Um, with cancer, if you have the opportunity, you cut it out, right? I mean, so it's the same thing. Get these people out of the space that they're taking in your life,
Yeah.
and put back in them, people that are going to be helpful to what you're trying to achieve. When wrap yourself with people around you that are all equally yoked and on the common goal with you, your life becomes so much more simple. When you
Mm.
have people pulling on you in all different directions and taking up space mentally that are just, may not have your best interest in mind, you're
Mhm.
constantly in a flux of problems.
Yes, that's so true. And it's back to that thing about if you let cancer or an ex or whatever YZ, anybody or anything get in the way of it's their fault. It was them. They were bad. It was evil. Whatever the heck, and it's 100% true probably, but as long as it's in their court and you're living with the anger from it, that anger can kill you faster than anything. And so how has this situation changed or brought you closer to forgiveness or letting go, surrendering?
Wow, that's a great question because let me tell you, what it has done. And God's miracles may not always be full restoration, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes it's the restoration of a relationship. Sometimes it's a few extra years to get a few things done. It's not fully restoring. I lost my son
Yeah.
um, during my marriage, and when I did, it pulled me and my wife apart. And you know what? We didn't talk. We
Mhm.
divorced. We haven't talked in 17 years. We haven't even looked at each other in 17 years.
Hmm.
Little over 3.5 months ago, my ex-wife, the mother of my son, um, reached out to me. She had changed careers, got into the automotive industry, and wanted to see if I was still in the automotive industry, probably on a little bit of a selfish mindset. Maybe I can get him to help me with some contacts, that kind of thing, and saw that I was sick.
Mm.
She had just recently lost a significant other a couple years before to cancer,
Mm.
and she reached out to me, and we sat down a week later, and like nothing ever happened. Total forgiveness had
Yeah.
happened between the two of us, and that's God's work, right? That was something that was beyond me. That I realized that this stepped up, and he fixed this relationship. A couple
Right.
of weeks later, we met again, and then I had my third meeting with her boss and her to try to help. And this is so funny because he spent 90 minutes talking about how Christ showed up in him in his child's life recently,
Hmm.
and completely forgot what the meeting was going to be all about. And he's like, I have never done that. And I said, he goes, but it's just so easy to talk to you about this. And I said, it's okay, right? This is fine. This is what it's all about. It's
Hmm.
not about, sometimes what we can gain in the sense of materialism, but maybe we can gain it in a sense of spiritualism, right? And so he left that meeting. My ex was in tears. She was just like, all she did the whole time was sit there and realize that she still had love and respect for me. And I
Hmm.
had the same for her. And it was great, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what it's all about.
Yes. And I feel like in my experience, I also lost my youngest son to a
Mhm.
heart condition when he was 21, not too long ago, a couple years now. And it was a journey. And so there was something about really not letting go of the anger, but there was the emotions. There was all the emotions that you go through. So when you're getting a diagnosis that's not a good one, what is your idea, or how did you get through that? What did you do with those emotions?
I immediately said, having lost my son,
Mm-hmm.
I went through what I call my Lieutenant Dan stage, right? And
Yeah.
that's where you challenge your faith. If anybody remembers Forrest Gump, Lieutenant Dan lost his legs. He
Yeah.
lost his will to live. He hated God for what happened, and he just wanted to be gone. And, you know, I was at a point where I challenged God when I lost my son. I challenged my faith. And I realized that because 2.5 years after the loss of my son, I found out I had a daughter that was 13 and a half years old. And God graced me with this wonderful daughter who now has brought two wonderful grandchildren into my life.
Mm.
So because of that gift, when this darkness showed up, when
Mm.
this moment of introspect came, I was like, no, you know what? We're going to do this in a positive mindset. We're going to do this with a smile on our face. We are going to be the best version of ourselves every day. We are going to be a blessing to others. And we're going to do it so my grandchildren and my daughter and everyone around me will understand that this is how you face adversity. You don't do it by cowering. You do it by standing up defiantly and saying, no, you move.
Right. That makes so much more sense to me than just letting it defeat you. And especially as a parent, anybody you work with, a team leader, boss, anybody in your community, how we as a leader, how you handle things is how our children, other people that work with us, they see that, and we're the models of how to do it when they have to deal with something in life. And everybody's going to face um, loss at one time or another, and so that is something that's very important to do. What a beautiful way to um, release that, and then just be thankful for that beautiful new daughter that showed up, that was always there. Maybe there was some little guidance when your son passed or something. Who knows how that works, but somehow you were connected. So that is a beautiful story. Now I'd like to hear about how, I know you've helped quite a few veterans, so could you share with the audience how that works and maybe give some examples of who you've helped already?
Yeah. So, obviously, 8 days after I got diagnosed, my I was standing in front of the breakers. This is a Vanderbilt summer home out in Newport, Rhode Island. I'm looking up and I'm like, gosh, if I had their money, I could change the world. And then God slaps me across the face and says, you don't need their money. You can change the world one person at a time. And so that's when Dying Defiantly was founded. And what it started out as is we wanted to be a give end of life counseling, family counseling, bereavement counseling for the families, be there as a support unit for them as they were traveling down through this dark journey, right? And nobody wants to be counseled at end of life. When you're dying, you don't want to be like, I'm going through counseling now. That's not what you're. So I call them catch up calls. Hey, I'm just calling to catch up with you today, see how you're feeling. What can we do today to challenge you to live a little bit more, right? Because I believe that you can die a little bit every day, or you can live every day until you die. And if you live every day until you die, you'll live longer, you'll live better, you'll be a better role model, and you'll be a better person all the way through. And it's just the greatest gift. And so when I'm talking to these people, what we're doing with the charity was really focusing on developing and getting a better belief system, right? Getting rid of the old, a little bit of neuro linguistic programming to help them defeat negative belief systems that they might have had in their mindset, right? Because I remind them that cancer is just a word, it's not a sentence. Whatever
Right.
their illness is, it's just a word, it's not a sentence. You choose how that's going to affect you, either positively or negatively. Yes, it's going to have some effects on your body. It's going to have some effects on, the way you could do things, maybe fatigue and things of that nature. But it's still your choice how you power through that, how you get up and determine that, okay, I'm putting my clothes on today. I'm not going to sit on the couch and watch Netflix all day. I'm going to go to the park. I'm going to walk, because
Mm.
a body in motion is a body alive,
Yeah,
right?
it's true.
There's three things we talk about: a strong mind, a strong body, and a strong faith. You need all three of those things when you're fighting this. The strong body, obviously, get out, move, keep
Mm-hmm.
yourself in motion. And I mean, I have people go, "Oh, but I'm bed bound, Marshall." I'm like, "Okay, tell me you can't put bands at the end of your bed, right?" And he's like, I could." All right, okay. Then you can keep moving. You can keep your body
Mm.
moving. You can keep your mind moving. Like, I play chess multiple times a day with multiple people from all over the world. Why? Because it keeps my mind moving, right?
Yeah.
Not that I have enough things to do as it is, right? Doing anywhere from 45 to 60 calls a week in counseling, not to mention all the other things that we do. It is so important to people, especially when you're facing darkness, to keep yourself busy.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you stop, the enemy seems to have always a way of finding, sitting on your shoulder saying, "Hey, you know what? Do you really need to get up and do anything?
Yeah.
Watch some TV. Just spend the rest of the day." And then you get weaker and weaker and weaker. Your body starts seeing a little more atrophy in its muscles. You're
Mm.
not as strong as you used to be. Walking upstairs now makes you weaker. What
Yeah.
was that? That was the enemy saying, it's okay to be tired. It's okay to watch TV today, right? It just keeps you weak. So that's how
Yeah.
I try to face it.
That's wonderful. Now, what do you suggest though for those times where you did have a bad day, you did fall out, or you just really you had maybe you had a treatment, chemo treatment or something, and you really were like, the fact that I got out of bed, everybody should applaud. Like right now. You know what I mean? Like those days like that where it's really tough and you're already hard on yourself for not being able to do more when it's just not that just wasn't something you could do that moment.
I've had those days.
Yeah.
I've had, so every 4 to 6 weeks, they have to go inside of me and put stents inside my bile ducts.
Mhm.
So I've had this done 25 times. And every other time, they do what they call a radioablation, where they burn the insides of the bile ducts to keep whatever uh, tumor is minimized, so they can actually get the stents in there and keep them from migrating. So, when that happens, so the pain I deal with every day is simple, right? There's a lot of pain, but I have a really high tolerance to it. But I'm supposed to be taking 30 milligrams of morphine,
Uh,
and I'm supposed to be taking that's every day, and then I'm supposed to be taking every 3 hours 15 milligrams of oxycodone. We
Oh,
wouldn't be having this conversation if I did all that.
no way.
So when the days come like that, I'm like, okay. And there's days that you're still fighting a fever, you're still fighting fatigue, you're still fighting, especially after an ablation. An
Mm.
ablation tends to really just irritate the whole system that is trying to protect, right? Trying to help. So your whole core is on fire. Um, you have the pain of somebody stabbing a knife into your liver and twisting it around constantly. And you just learn to, okay, hey, I could take all these drugs and kind of float through the day.
Yep.
Or to me, I get up, I start getting myself moving. I try not to overdo it. I tend to overdo it a lot.
Mhm.
um, but I believe this: pain reminds me that I'm alive.
Yes.
The pain reminds me that I'm still here. And I'm
Hmm.
already 15 months past my expiration date.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
God is granting me this wonderful gift of another day. So, in those moments, I'm not going to waste them. Now, I may not be able to work an 8 hour full functioning day, 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever I do some days. So it might be a 4 hour day, it might be a 3 hour day. And then I rest or take a nap on the couch because I needed it. My body needed that to recover so I
Hmm.
can function 2 weeks later to be the best version of myself again and run hard. Like I have to remind people all the time because they think I'm some kind of Superman because I don't really show those weak moments. And I'm like, believe me, they're there. I
Yeah.
just don't always share them because look, man, you already know what that part of life is. What's
Hmm.
the other side of it? You're living it like me, right?
Hmm.
You know what pain is. You already know what you're going through. Why do I want to share my pain with you?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Exactly.
let me share my positivity with you. Let me share my excitement, my passion, my love for you. So
Yeah.
you can get yourself back to that same point. And when you're talking to other people, that's what comes across. And so that's how I try to handle it.
That's so true. I mean, I had a situation where I ended up in the emergency room a year and a half ago, and they wanted to give me morphine. And I was like, I was the only one. I had to sign a waiver to refuse it. And I was like, I just want to know if there's anything that you all need to do. Do that. But I do not want to take some hard drugs. I need to function. So we may be related. I was literally the only one that walked out of there with, I said, I could take like a couple Advil and I'll be fine. Cause I like take Advil once or twice a year. So that to me is very strong. I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't do anything. So for me, that was fine. And they were just shocked. So it is easy to go down the status quo, but I was like, I need to feel what's going on. So if I move the wrong way, am I injuring myself more? If I don't feel anything, I'm just going to do stupid stuff and I could hurt myself more. There's so many different reasons not to do that. Other than the mind, we need to have our mind clear. So I was one of those too. I completely understand that. Yes, so that's a tough one. But that was a wonderful way to express how you're getting through all that. Now, I'd love to hear about Dying Defiantly, the organization. What does it look like? How do people work with it? How does it work?
So dying defiantly, I tell you what, and I have to say this, this other man that's on the screen with you all today, um, is a godsend, right? Kurt Jensen's been a friend of mine for years, and typical of a lot of veterans, we think we can do a lot of things by ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I wanted to make sure that this didn't ever lose sight of what it was for
Yeah.
me, which was to be a blessing to others every single day till I die. And in the last 2 years, we've almost been able to help almost 13,000 people, which is beyond anything I could have ever imagined to begin with. We started out with a series of 7 counselors and one doctor that um, had a double mastectomy. So she handled a lot of breast cancer patients, talking to them, helping them, guide them through their journey because she had experienced it and was a cancer survivor. Um, you know, and I was like, well, I wasn't expecting to spend a whole lot of time counseling because it wasn't what I'm not a counselor. And I tell people like that. And I have to explain to them, like, look, I'm just a guy with cancer, but I will talk to you if you want to talk to me. Right. And I get everybody wants to talk to me sometimes. So I try to circle back around through the whole organization and touch everybody at least one time.
Mhm.
Right. So they get the opportunity to understand where I came from, what my mentality is. And I try to share messages of hope and support through this whole thing. So to reach us, it was pretty simple. I started to reach out to support groups info on Facebook, and Facebook, of course, the next thing you know, social media, that reach becomes almost explosive overnight, and you start getting all these requests for help. Well, then
Mhm.
I was looking for volunteer volunteer counselors, and then I also wanted to make sure the counselors were able to handle the situation,
Yeah.
because I had a lot of people coming to me that were young counselors that didn't have any experience, that wanted to get experience. And I'm like,
Mm.
look, this is a really touchy subject, right? It's hard to understand what these people are going through unless you've faced it yourself.
Mhm.
So I did a lot of the initial consulating, showing them, talking to them, letting them track this on me, okay, and guiding them through that conversation. And I said, understand, not everybody's going to have my mindset.
Mhm.
They're going to be 90% of these people you talk to are going to be like, I'm losing everything. I can't work. I can't support my family. I can't be there for my wife. Can't be there for my wife physically. Can't be there for my wife, you know, in a support role. I can't be there for my children. I've lost everything in my life. Anything that ever mattered to me, I've lost. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, I understand that completely. And I usually go like this. I'm like, wow, have you ever thought that they may be losing everything too? They're losing a hero. They're losing a soulmate. They're losing a partner. They're losing everything too, but they're not showing it because they don't want it to add to your grief.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
And when you say that, most people go, wow, hadn't thought about that like that, because they're too caught up in the darkness that has become their life. And
Mhm.
so I try to bring a little bit of light. I try to be their light until they can be their own light. I try to be the voice of reason when there doesn't seem to be reasons, right? I try to be the ears that listen when they don't think anybody is.
Yes.
And, when you do that for these people, gosh, I mean, the grace that comes, the love that comes back is just so amazing.
Mhm. Definitely. Wow. That's incredible. And it's so important to give different perspectives. When somebody's hit with a diagnosis like that, it's a tough time. And it's like a whole reset. You got to reset. So when you have a guide and a group of people and counselors to guide you through that, that get it, that just makes it so much easier to enjoy the time that you have instead of being
Very
stuck
true.
with whatever. So, and it also helps all the relatives, um, everybody connected.
We started a program called Sherpa right now. Sherpa is, of course, the person that takes you up the mountain, right? And so, what other mountain do you have to face other than your own demise?
Hmm.
And these guys are people that have currently been in the program. They're facing their own, journey into eternity. And so we take like almost like a dating site. We put people together equally matched, same cancer, same illness, whatever it might be. And this one might be 8 months into his journey. This one might be just beginning his journey. And those two become peer to peer counseling. They help one another. And as the Sherpa dies off, he passes the baton to the guy behind him, and so forth and so forth and so forth. And we're starting to see that take just amazing root, giving purpose to all parties, and taking a little bit of load off of the mainstream counseling, and myself as well, right? But I still follow through, and I'm around those people and trying to make the best of it, and make sure that they realize that we're here to support them. And that's just one of our programs. We've got a new program, that initiative that we're working on right now. It's called the Excursions Program. This is where we help people basically take them on a virtual bucket list. Say
Mm-hmm.
they're at a point where they can't get out, they can't travel anymore, but they wanted to see some amazing sights in their world. They wanted to go to the Colosseum, they want to go to the Acropolis, they want to go to Paris and see the Eiffel Tower, Mount Rushmore, whatever it might have been. We can take them there with, MetaQuest, Oculus goggles, and let them experience places that they would never have done. Let them experience maybe hang gliding if they wanted to hang glide, or sailing a boat through the Greek Isles. Whatever they can imagine, we can produce that for them and give them that opportunity to experience a little bit of life before they die.
Mm. That sounds like a wonderful thing to be able to provide. So now you are Dying Defiantly. Could you explain, like, is it like a nonprofit? Can people donate? How does that work if people want to get involved that way to contribute to your work?
We're a 501c3, charitable organization for the U.S. government. That means that every dollar that comes in is a charitable donation. They can write it off in their taxes. Uh, the best way to give is to just go to dyingdefiantly.org, go to the give section, and there are multitudes of ways to give. You can give in a monthly blessing. You can give in a one-time thing. You can give in your estate planning. You can give by donating cars, comic book collections, whatever. We have avenues for almost every way that most people would want to give. So if you got stuff laying around your house that you don't want, that may have some value to it still, we have ways of making that go away for you and becoming a donation. So um, that's a great way. You can reach out to Kurt. Kurt is a phenomenal person to help you figure things out like that. Kurt, like I said, Kurt kind of helped me realize that to scale this to the next level,
Mm-hmm.
that I did a great job almost getting 13,000 people assisted in the last 2 years. But I had a real lofty goal next year of 36,000. And he goes, "You can't do that alone, buddy. You can't." And he reminded me that, you know, it's not the number of seeds in a single apple, but the number of apples that come from a single seed that is important. And
Mm-hmm.
because of this, it allows him to kind of get me grounded sometimes, right? Because I'm like, you know, I, I feel like I have so many irons in the fire, and I
Right.
have to still remember to live a little bit some days, right? I mean, this is a great way to live, but there's some days I gotta, you know, that my significant other, Angela, she feels distant from me sometimes because I'm so much for everybody else, and
Mm-hmm.
not always, when I'm emotionally spent at the end of the day, I don't have as much emotion left, or my words are gone, right? We only have so many words in a day, and by the end of the day my words are usually shot. So sitting there and talking all night is not usually my idea of
Mm-hmm.
fun.
Yes, that's wonderful then. So people can go to, what is the website where they go to get involved, or if they do have somebody they know, or if they themselves are going through a terminal illness, how do they connect?
Dyingdefiantly.org, just
Oh,
dyingdefiantly.org. And we are there. You go right to the site. It says give, get
hmm,
help. Just press the button. It'll take you to where you need to go. Fill out the thing. Um, if anybody's out there on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, and you just need help, just DM me directly too. They can DM me. I don't care. And I'll answer, right? They can call me. They can call the number. If they call the number into the charity, you're going to get me, right? Because I'll answer that phone call. My phone's on 24 hours a day. I'm there to support everybody. I realize that sometimes darkness comes in deep in the night, and when that happens, you
mm-hmm,
know you got to be available. And just in the last 4 months, we've had 4 suicide interventions that
mm-hmm,
took place, that they called me to talk to me. I got a hold of the significant other in their house, their wife, their caregiver, whatever, and
yes,
said, "Hey, you need to go downstairs right now," not without letting the other person know that they were informed, so we wouldn't lose that lack of that level of trust. But these people, you know, it's just a dark moment, right? They're
right,
tired of the pain. They're tired of, putting everybody through the heck that has to go on during this time period, because it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, when you're going through surgeries every 4 to 6 weeks, you're going through infusions, every week. It's a difficult situation, and some people just have a hard time dealing with it. And so we don't ever turn our phones off. We leave those phones on. We're there for those people in the darkest of moments, and we won't turn our backs on anybody ever.
that's wonderful. And now we are coming to the end of our time, so I would like to ask if Kurt, if you had anything to add.
Oh, thank you so much. But yes, just go to dyingdefiantly.org, especially if you need help. If you're dealing with a situation yourself, you don't need to deal with it alone. Marshall's an amazing resource. If you're a family member, if you're a caregiver, if you need our help, he's it's just a blessing to be a part of his mission. And everybody has an opportunity to give, even if it's $13 a month. I gave $13 a month, so if I can do it, anybody else can, right? And it's an amazing organization, deserving of your support. Like I said, I've been through a lot of it over the last 5 years, so I believe it's God pointing me in a direction that I need to continue to be supportive. So I'm here. My email is kurt@dyingdefiantly.org, and it's KURT, and I'm available anytime too.
All right, thank you. And Marshall, do you have any other closing remarks for the listeners?
Look, the best way to live is by dying defiantly, right? So challenge yourself, right? No matter what that situation you're facing might be, right? No matter how weak you're feeling right now, just if you can hear my words, understand that you don't have to face this alone. And I know that you have friends and family around you, but you don't have to face it alone. If you want to talk to somebody that is 15 months past his expiration date, that he isn't doing, I stopped chemo last July, all right, because I believe chemo was killing me. So you don't have to always go down the path the doctor tells you. That sometimes may not be the best path for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you want to hear some things from somebody that's going through it, just like you, please reach out. My email, marshall@dyingdefiantly.org. Facebook friend me. I don't care. Find us on Facebook, find us on social media, find me on LinkedIn. I will be there for you. I will not turn my back on you. I will not let you fall. And if you do fall, I'll be there to pick you back up. And I look forward to speaking to any one of you that need my help.
All right. Well, thank you, Kurt and Marshall, for being special guests on the show and helping so many people to live fully and die defiantly. All right. And for those tuning in, we will be back after these messages. All right. And thank you, LinkedIn Live, also for listening. Okay. If you're just tuning in, this is NBC's Sheila Mac Show here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. I'm your host, Sheila Mac, and wow, we had such an incredible conversation with Marshall and Kurt about their incredible organization, Dying Defiantly. The organization is helping veterans and others who are dealing with a health issue and have received that terminal illness diagnosis. And so it's an incredible cause, and I hope you're able to help out if you are so guided to do so. Now, one of the things that I think is very important, whether you are dealing with your own personal diagnosis or have a family friend, a loved one who is going through something similar, there is something so important about self-care, whether you're a caregiver or making sure that your loved one has the care they need, but also if you are caring for a family member, friend, loved one, parent, somebody that has a very serious illness, then self-care is so important. And it's almost counterintuitive because our hearts and minds want to go to helping our loved one, and many times, especially if you are the number one person caring for this other loved one or person in your life, it's really easy to forget about yourself and your own health and your own wellness and self-care. And so many times the other person in a relationship or family member, what have you, will also end up getting sick or dealing with their own health issues because they haven't given themselves that time to take care of their own needs. And so that's where it's really important to, if you do have that or somebody you love is dealing with a serious illness, to work with your doctors. There's a variety of different help hotlines that also can help, and I would definitely suggest contacting Marshall's group, Dying Defiantly, if you're in that situation or know someone who is. He does help.
and also contacting your doctors and the referral lines such as 211 and other guides to help and see, is there some type of benefits that can come into place because of an illness like that? Is there disability or social security benefits, or does your health insurance cover home care or some type of assistance? Because the other people involved need to have that break time in order to have their own wellness and self-care. And just going to the gym or taking a walk or going for a swim, maybe that's not your thing. Maybe your thing might be going for a hike, or going to watch a movie, going out with friends, going boating, fishing, whatever it is you do. That little time away is like how you can recharge your batteries. It might be that you're really into meditation or yoga, moving meditation, singing, kirtan. And so these things can be very helpful in order to give everybody that little bit of time to recharge. Journaling is very helpful, and it sounds like something that's also counterintuitive, but when you go ahead and schedule things out, you can really look at, well, how much time are you working? How much time are you helping your loved one or needing to do your own care if you're the one dealing with a situation that's a health issue? And how much time realistically can you give yourself every day? If it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, it may be that you're not able to do a lot physically, but then you can do meditation, breathing exercises, different things to have that break. And if you're caring for someone in that situation, just getting out with other people, talking to somebody that can help you as far as a coach, counselor, therapist, going through a process, it is extremely helpful. So those are some of the things that I would suggest as far as getting some help and relief. And it just gives you energy and the ability to help better when you've taken care of yourself first. I know personally for myself, I like to go work out every day, and it's really for my mental health as much or maybe more than the physical. It just gives me a great feeling of that was my time. And that was probably something for me. I might not watch a lot of television. I might not do other things, but that exercise is like one of my most important ways to cope with things going on. It's like my coping mechanism, and perhaps it's my my healthy way. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do anything, but I go and I work out. So that's my release, my way of just getting burning off the stress and just relaxing a little. I actually relax when I work out. It sounds crazy. I mean, the harder I work out, the happier I am. It's bizarre. But everybody's different. And so you need to do what works for you, what your simple things. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. It just has to be very consistent, and it honors what you as a person need in your life. And this can go very much into when you show up for the person, or even if you are going through something physically, whatever simple thing, definitely sunshine. So many studies on sunshine and how healthy it is for us, and the vitamin D helps so that you don't get depression as much. And I mean, I'm actually sharing about this today while sitting outside in a beautiful sunshiny place. It's perfect, it's lovely, it's beautiful, and it's peaceful. And it just it fuels your soul. It's good for your eyesight, everything. All studies point to getting a little bit of sunshine every day. So that's something to look at. And talk with a professional, talk with a therapist, talk with your doctor, and see what they suggest, that and look at what works for you, because you're going to know what works for you better than anybody else. And I'll give a really good example about that is for my daughter and I when we lost my son, which was the hardest thing that's ever happened in my life. We both are the same. We both work a lot and we get a lot of pleasure out of doing things. so so sitting at home grieving is not the best full-time thing. And we did go through some serious grieving for sure, but we had to stay busy. And I remember just knowing that both of us going to school, working, doing this show, all of those things were part of the healing process for us. It was a way, it was kind of like working and working out, going to the gym, being active were the breaks that we needed. And then we had our grieving time too. But we needed, even within that, times where we could just be doing something else. And it could be going out in contribution, helping others. I did a whole bunch of work helping with disaster victims at one point. And I loved helping other people, but it was also healing for me because it was not just about me and what I was going through. It was me being able to help other people going through other things that really just took me out of that grieving because I was in contribution. And so I find that super important. I know that Tony Robbins has an incredible series called the Breakthrough Series. It was a show at one point, a series of intervention shares, and it was all about one of the main things he did was people going through really tough situations. One of the assignments was always to have them get into contribution, and it was quite healing for them and helpful to get back on track or get through the process that they were going through at the time. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. And I feel that in my own personal life, that has been something. So, everybody's unique. Look into that. And of course, if you are going to give back, if you're going to contribute to others, you need to make sure that your glass is full as well and that you're eating properly, getting your fresh air, sunshine, meditation, whatever exercise you can do, and some laughter. Laughter every day. Laughter is healing. Laughter is incredible. And I strongly believe that people like Joe Dispenza, who teach about our mindset and these different connections, how many times different serious conditions can go into remission or what have you when you change your state. And so that is incredibly important. There's studies on these beliefs, and it doesn't happen for everyone, but it sure does help to at least add and implement some of those things, meditation and connection and getting into your heart space back into your life. And you listen to, we have some fun helicopter tours going on above. So that is some of the things that can help you with self-care, especially when you're caring for others. Now, in my book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation, I do have an entire chapter. It's called Parenting Your Parents, and really There's a lot in there that could be applied to caring for anyone that has an illness. And also there is another chapter on self-care. And so those two chapters are the two that I would suggest. My book is really about lifestyle design and the different parts of our life that we all deal with and face in one way or another. So check that out. It is available at Amazon and wherever books are sold. All right. Dear Sheila, as a young woman, I struggled with my weight. I was teased, harassed, and was shunned as I didn't look like the other girls. I ended up becoming so obsessed with my weight that I exercised excessively. I didn't eat and abused my body to become thin. I lost girlfriends as the boys started to look at me. I was essentially viewed as the competition. I was very broken-hearted about that. I have struggled with my body image my whole life. Now, as a very mature woman, I still see myself as overweight. I would love to know some skills to better love myself for the body I have and just love me for me. Sincerely, Body to Love. Dear Body to Love, you're right. The first person that needs to love you is you. Positive self-care is important. Taking care of how you eat, how you do wellness should be for you before it's for pleasing anybody else on this planet. That is important. And then beyond that, there's something funny that happens. At a certain point in our lives, we stop caring about the good opinion of other people. And sometimes it takes a long time to get there. It would be so nice if we got there when we were younger and didn't have to go through all of that. I remember being a young girl, and at one point in my life, I was too heavy. Then I was too skinny. Then I was too rich. Then I was too poor. And I realized that the young girls and friends that were saying that, they really weren't friend quality. It didn't matter what I was. It was always something. And I realized that that was the conversations they were having in their own heads about themselves. And it had absolutely nothing to do with me. So the most important thing to do is be the best you can be for you and for yourself. And in doing that, it's going to help other women be the best them they can be for themselves and stop worrying about the other opinions. I hope this helps. As always, I wish you life, love, laughter, and light. Thank you for listening to Dear Sheila, answering real questions with real solutions to reboot your life. If you have a burning question, submit your question now to www.dearsheila.com. www.dearsheila.com. Series and my new book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps Helps. Thank you again for tuning in to NBC's Sheila Mac Show here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. I'm your host, Sheila Mac. And if you're listening to this, you might be a first-time home buyer eager to leave the rental cycle, an empty nester ready to downsize for a simpler life, a busy mom who wants more family time, or a savvy entrepreneur seeking to generate passive income as you build your financial house. So are you ready to reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your
KCAA Loma Linda. The Legacy KCAA 1050 AM and Express 106.5 FM.
NBC News Radio, I'm Lisa Taylor. Fighting between Israel and the Palestinian militant group Hamas is raging on for a fourth day. This comes after surprise attacks from Hamas on Israel over the weekend. President Biden says the attack on Israel is an act of pure evil.
More than 1,000 civilians slaughtered, not just killed, slaughtered in Israel. Among them, at least 14 American citizens killed.
Speaking from the White House today, Biden said the U.S. stands with Israel and it has a right to defend itself. When Congress returns, Biden plans to ask lawmakers to take urgent action on the national security requirements of critical U.S. allies. The U.S. can't confirm how many Americans are being held hostage by Hamas.
We mourn for all their lives and we're actively working with Israelis to determine the whereabouts of the missing, including missing American citizens.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan told reporters today that at least 20 Americans are currently unaccounted for, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're all being held hostage. He said the administration is actively working with Israel to find those who are missing. Multiple strikes are taking place across the country. The United Auto Workers strike is in its 26th day against Detroit's big three automakers. Meanwhile, Hollywood's writers voted to ratify their new contract yesterday, but the actors are still on strike, with negotiations expected to continue this week. The MLB playoffs feature two ALDS games today. First, the Twins will welcome in the Houston Astros to Minnesota for Game 3 of their series. The Twins and Astros are currently tied at 1 game apiece. Next, the Texas Rangers will look to sweep the Baltimore Orioles in the third game of their series. The next Powerball drawing will offer the second largest lottery jackpot in U.S. history. With no big winner last night, Wednesday's jackpot rolls up to just over $1.7 billion. The lump sum cash payment would be worth an estimated $756 million. There hasn't been a Powerball jackpot winner since July. You're listening to the latest on NBC News Radio.
It's a bird!
It's a plane!
No, it's Super Roth!